Hey guys, how you doing? So we're back for part 2 of my coming out series, coming out to my family. I'm super excited to get into this one. Like I've said a lot of times, coming out to my family is very unique. So we're going to talk a little bit about the actual process of telling, my sister, my mom, and my dad, and then we're going to talk about how it changed our household, as well as just I'm gonna pinpoint a few things that really helped me that they did, and that if you're looking to sort of for some examples of how to support some trans people in your life that you really care about, I'm just gonna be pointing out some things that they did that really helped me. So to start, like I have talked about in pretty good amount of detail in my other videos, the beginning of my whole coming out process, when it actually started, was coming out to my mom. And I've talked quite a bit actually about that conversation in the car on the way to hockey, where she looked over at me and told me what transgender was, told me that some people are born into the wrong bodies, and there is actually a process to help those people get into the bodies and make themselves feel comfortable with who they are, and start living the life they they dream. And so she kind of she talked to me a little bit about that, and I mean, it wasn't word for word like that, but she did kind of, what I do overwhelmingly remember is her explaining to me that other people, feel like they're born into the wrong bodies, and that there is a process to help you get and make your body feel like the right body. And that's the thing that I really connected with. And as she's talking to me, I kind of got really overwhelmed and swept away. And so after I kind of heard that, I started just thinking in my head, oh, this really makes sense. Wait, all these feelings that I've been feeling, this kind of adds up. Maybe this this is who I am. And I remember literally how I just explained that confusion, that back and forth of what, being overwhelmingly and kind of getting excited because it started to make sense, but also still being confused of wait, what, this is a thing. And so I continued to listen and continued to get excited and have these thoughts in my head. And why I think I got so excited is because, like I had said, is for months I was overwhelmed with this idea of, what could I do to make myself not wake up so angry anymore, and what could I do to help with this deep spot I was in. And then having this conversation, it was oh, okay, maybe this is that step. It overlapped all those 3 other options that I was talking about in my last video, and presented a new one that was much better. And so I remember she continued to listen to her, and then she went into so I booked a doctor's appointment. I found a doctor that talks about being transgender, and if it fits, can talk about beginning a transition. And I remember saying I want to go, and that's the point where I started crying, because I never had that explanation of transgender. Nothing had ever felt so true to me in my life. And one, not only had I started connecting these feelings that I had been having for months now, I'd also been presented with the opportunity to, lucky enough, be able to go to a doctor and start to work towards trying to figure them out. And so that was really, really incredible. And I'm so grateful for my mom for having that moment, which I've said plenty of times. And what's interesting about my transition is that after that appointment, really only me and my mom knew for a bit. And it's not because we were hiding it or anything like that. It's more because that my sister Kyra at the time was going to Wexford Collegiate High School, and if you've gone there or know of it, they have a music theater program which puts on shows every once in a while. And when a show's on, if you're in the program, you're insanely busy with a show's going on. And there was a show happening at the time of my first doctor's appointment, so there wasn't really a time where we got to see Kyra enough to sit and be hey, I gotta talk to you about something. And so a week went by, and after her show, I was planning on telling her myself, but my mom kind of got that moment before I did, and sat her down and was so here's everything that's going on with Casey. Casey is transgender now. He wants to be referred to as him and he pronouns, and kind of explained what was starting to take place with me. And from the beginning, Kyra has always been super supportive, super loving. And what's interesting is actually for a really long time, me and Kyra didn't talk about me being transgender. And not out of a bad place, really, just that it wasn't needed. I was her brother, and she loved me, and she was supportive, and that was all that really mattered. And so we didn't always talk about me being transgender, and we didn't always have deep conversations about me being transgendered. It was kind of just I was able to just be her brother, and I was able just to be me around her, which was really amazing. And what I also think is just super interesting on the topic of siblings and coming out, and my coming out process, is it's really interesting that mine and Kyra's relationship as sisters was not very good. We didn't get along, we fought a lot, and we were just not close. And then as I transitioned and I became her brother, we started to get more get closer, and our bond became a lot better, which is interesting to me. And now we're just a lot closer than we ever were, or I could ever imagine us being as sisters. And for me, it's always just been this one little like interesting, like another like thing that just shows me that I was always meant to be a boy. You know, and it was just like another small thing like that I always find really interesting and really love that about my transition, and especially like my relationship with Kyra that has grown since then. So yeah, so that was kind of like the coming out to my mom and my sister, and then kind of similar to coming out to my sister, coming out to my dad, my mom also did tell him. And she was what we call in my family Mama Bear, especially at the beginning of my transition, because she was aware that so many people are bullied for being transitioned or put in through horrible situations at some points just for being who they are. She was always very protective and had my back no matter what. And because actually my stepdad wasn't living with us at the time and I was going and visiting him regularly, like her making sure that it was safe for me to go there was really important for her, even though there was never like a thought that he, like my stepdad was going to be unaccepting or like have an issue. It was just her being Mama Bear and being over, like making sure 100% that it was okay for me to go there. And so similarly to like my sister, me and my stepdad didn't talk about it for a really long time, longer than my sister actually. It just was something that we didn't really need to. Again, it wasn't anything that was bad or because of unacceptance or anything along those lines. It was just because, again, like I was his son, I was his kid, he loved me and he supported me, and there didn't really need to be a conversation past that because it didn't change our relationship, especially because we've always been like, he's always been the person to like take me to the woods and go camping and like do all these things and hang out a lot, that it never changed any of those things. We continued to go and do those. And while like I think every kind of person has with their parents like phases of being like really close and not being really close, it was never derived from who I was, but more the little shit I was being. And so, yeah, like it was interesting for me, and I know my coming out process is something that is kind of unique, as I actually probably didn't do a lot of the coming out to my immediate family. Like my mom did tell me, and my mom, like not told me who I was, but like explained to me what transgender was and had that conversation where she reached out to me when most people actually have to reach out to their parents, and then I did actually tell my mom, like my sister and my dad. And so I used to think for so long too that like the story wasn't worth sharing because like there wasn't an intense like coming out story to my parents, and like I don't know how many people can relate to something where their parent goes that extra mile. And now I've kind of gotten to a point where I see value in this story. One, because I think it shows a good sense of what you can do if you are a parent and you see your kid struggling. It's a good, I think, outlet of looking for anybody that wants to be supportive and show them possible ideas of how to be, through my mom, who was amazingly supportive, and like my dad and my sister, who were supportive in a different sense and really just let me live life and be me and show me that being me didn't have to be a big deal. It didn't have to be hard to accept me. And that was a really big thing at like even allowing me to go and tell other people at a point in time or like afterwards, because it was so hard for me to fathom like people accepting me, that then by nonchalantly just accepting me and allowing me to live life and not even making me talk about it so much, it really gave me that belief and confidence that okay, maybe it doesn't have to be so hard for people to accept me, for people to love me. And so that was a really great starting point, and it really helped with like the overall like change in like my household. And that was like something really important and something I wanted to share, as well as like my mom was a really great outlet throughout my transition because she offered a lot of emotional support. At the time, I did not want to talk to any of my friends about it, and because I was going stealth and was just overall hiding it, but two, even though they did know I was trans, like some of my friends, like I didn't want to talk about being trans because I was going stealth, and I didn't want to draw more attention to the fact indeed that I was trans and like had the issues that were going on. So I just didn't really talk to the people, like my friends, about it. So having my mom also gave me a really healthy outlet for talking about emotions that I like otherwise wouldn't have had. And so when I share these stories, like I want to be able to give examples of like if family members want to help and want to be supportive and don't know how, they can look to like this story and maybe find possible ways, because every way of coming out is different and individual. So it's not like anybody's just gonna copy the story, but you can look for examples and possibly get ideas of how to be supportive, because my family was really, really awesome. And I'm not saying that like my family is perfect or anything like that. We all struggled with argued, we did all that, we had a hectic household, I'm not saying that we are the perfect family at all, and I don't think any family is, but what I am saying is that through all our imperfections, through all the chaos, they were able to support me and love me unconditionally, and that's what went the extra mile. And like things like my mom being able to just reach out and have that conversation with me, and I know a lot of people probably won't go and reach out and have a conversation on the same level, but even just if you're looking to support a friend or a family member that is struggling and hasn't told you exactly what's going on, a simple even unprovoked respectful reminder that you are there for them no matter what can go so far, even if it's not immediately having them open up to you, in the back of their mind knowing that they have that support. You never know how much that can mean to somebody. For me, it really having that reach out of support saved my life, and I can't really talk about it. It's hard to put into words how much that moment saved my life, because it jumped over all the 3 other options that I had been pondering for months, all 3 that were not great options. Well, the last one was, but because it was the one that kind of happened, but this moment of my mom being able to reach out to me when I was so terrified was a really great moment. And so I just want to remind people that if you can see someone struggling, reaching out with love and respect can always go so far. And you may not see it right away, but it's always a good feeling when someone cares about you, and even if it still doesn't bring the person to the point of being able to talk about what's going on in their life, having that support really can mean so much. So that's it for today and this video of my coming out to my family. I appreciate you guys watching and supporting and all the love that I've been getting for telling my story, and I hope that this video can offer some possible outlets and ideas of how to support, as well as the other reason I did also want to release this video, even though, like I said, I'm not sure how many people may be able to relate to this unique kind of coming out story, is I also want to expose more coming out stories going okay. Because I do feel even for me at least, when I was coming out, I heard a lot of coming out stories going bad, and while a number of them do go bad, I also didn't hear about the number of the coming out stories that go okay and that go good. And so I want to be another example and expose more stories of a coming out to your family going okay. And while I know that's individual to every family and every situation, I think hearing and exposing more stories hopefully will one day encourage more trans youths to be able to reach out to their family and to the people that care about them to help them when they really need it. So that's another reason that I'm releasing this video here and now. And so that's it for today. That is coming out to my family. Those are the pinpoints that I thought really helped me and that maybe other people can look to. And that's how it kind of changed our dynamic in the household, which didn't really change the dynamic. They were always been super supportive, but they really brought it out in a time where it meant a lot to me and I really needed it. So yeah, so that was coming out to my family. Next week we'll be coming out to my friends a little bit more. I talked very slightly about it in this video, but I will be talking about coming out to my friends, and then also the process of working with my middle schoolers to come with a process to come out to a bigger group of people. I don't want to talk too much about it right now. I will explain it in my next video, and I'm super excited to show how sometimes you can work with your school also during a coming out process. So don't miss next week, Sunday at 5, that will be dropping. And yeah, that's all for now. Thank you again so much for watching, and thank you for all the love and support that I've been receiving. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you want more content updates on my journey and just seeing me being visibly trans, follow my Instagram down in the bio below. So that's it for now. Easy, guys.